buzzer.
You know what, J-Rock? I'm not blowing my own horn, but I'm gonna for a minute here. But first off, I am a good talent evaluator when it comes to NFL football teams. I was fortunate when I was a kid growing up. I got to attend a lot of the Browns training camps when they were at Lakeland Community College. A lot of people never even remember. Remember when they were at Hiram way out there by Garrettsville and all that? I used to go out to Hiram and see the Browns. And I'm going to tell you something, man. That's when these Cleveland Browns had some good football teams, and that's when these Cleveland Browns won some big-time football games. And this was a playoff game in the middle of the season, J-Rock Daddy. The Browns needed to come out and be decisive with this win yesterday. And I got to tell you one other thing, J-Rock. I heard you bring up the name Manziel earlier. I can't believe even if people are still going in that direction. Let's face the facts. Let's face reality, man. Cleveland Browns football, for the first time in I don't know how long, J-Rock Daddy, has a quarterback starting for this team rated in the top 10 of all NFL quarterbacks, man. Now, we're used to seeing guys being rated 31 and 32 at the quarterback position for the last few years. Now we got a guy that is legitimately a top 10 contender in the quarterback ranking of the NFL, and I'm impressed with this guy's poise. Let's face reality. This guy doesn't throw a lot of passes, J-Rock Daddy, but the passes he throws and completes mean a lot for this Cleveland Browns football team. Talk about the interception to touchdown ratio. This guy's got that well under control. Look at Andy Dalton last night. He comes out with a 4.3 QBR, and I got to tell you something, J-Rock. The last time we saw a Browns game with a QBR rating lower than this, or even close to this, was when you know who started 2 seasons ago at home.
Oh, your boy Whedon. I was going to say Jeff Garcia. He had the infamous 0.0 game back in the day. That one was
but I'm talking about the last time we saw it was, the last time we saw it.
You can say his name. We just don't have to talk about it. You're funny. You can say his name. We just don't have to talk about him for 5 minutes. That's the only reason that I said something, because I just don't care to talk about him. But I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Brandon Whedon. I got you.
But I'm saying, would you ever suspect Andy Dalton coming out with the potential talent that this guy has in his wide receiver?
I don't like Andy Dalton.
Listen to the announcers during last night's game, J-Rock Daddy. The wind was affecting Andy Dalton's passes, but they certainly weren't affecting our boy Brian Hoyer's passes.
You know what,
You got to give the guy a lot of credit, man.
LG, let me jump in there. What? I don't like Andy Dalton. I've always said I cannot believe that they gave him that contract there. I just never thought Andy Dalton was much of a... I don't know, maybe it's the similarity to Whedon or the ginger thing. I don't know, but he just doesn't do it.
The red hair, man. You never draft a guy with red hair to be a quarterback.
Never draft a guy with red hair. There you go. Add that to your evaluation. But seriously, I'm not a Dalton guy at all. But, let me tell you, you brought up Hoyer. And this was something, it's funny you say about how the wind wasn't affecting him. For all the rap on how he's inaccurate, he's all, his arm strength is nothing and this, and look, he was throwing a spiral that sliced through a very thick wind last night. Every time they would show the replay of his passes, I mean, they weren't wounded ducks. They weren't floating out there, and he was nailing some tight windows.
Let me interject something too, J-Rock, while you're on that point. Not only was his passes slicing through the air, look where this guy places the football, and look at some of the completions this guy made. He's not afraid to throw it in between 2 or 3 defensive backs. This guy's accuracy, in my book, is second to none that we've seen in the last how many years on a Cleveland Browns roster.
That one to Barnidge, good throw, but a good catch, too. Barnidge, he looked like Jordan Cameron. He went up there, went big, and got that ball. But yeah, my thing is that, that's how I know. Because people say, well, how do you know that Brian Hoyer's just not good instead of just having an inaccurate game? Games like last night is how I know. When a guy can put the ball on a dime the way that he does with the elements, that tells me that when you have a shaky passing game, it's because it's like the other quarterbacks that have a shaky passing game and come back. And I'm not trying to compare him to Brady's and them, but they all have games where the ball is just all over the place from time to time. Brady will have one or two of those every season where he looks like a pedestrian quarterback, but then he bounces back with some Tom Brady performances. My point is, the difference is there's a guy like that having an off day and being inaccurate, even if it's for a week or two or three in a row, and then he gets it back. When you're just inaccurate, you don't hit those. I mean, he has the ability to make all the throws. That's a cliche that people use. He really can. People just don't want to give him credit for that. Now, granted, he doesn't have the arm strength of some of the bigger arm quarterbacks, but he has plenty of arm strength, and I think we saw that last night.
J-Rock, let me stop you right there for 1 second.
Mistakes.
Let me ask you a question. How much more arm strength does the guy really need? He needs all NFL quarterbacks in 40 yards. I mean, how much more does he need? Tell me that.
That's the stat right there. What you just nailed is that he is leading the league. This is what you guys don't understand. The top two quarterbacks in the NFL at both 20-yard or more completions and 40 or more yard completions is Andrew Luck and Brian Hoyer. Let that one sit out there for a minute. Andrew Luck is number one. Brian Hoyer is number two at 20 and 40-yard plus completions. That means the big chunk passes down the field.
Here's the whole point, J-Rock Daddy. We're 6-3. We're 3 games above 500.
Baby.
We're just past the halfway point of the Cleveland Browns season. 3 more wins out of the next 7 games. That gives us a 9-7 season. To me, that's all I wanted to see before I die, J-Rock Daddy, is a winning Browns football season. 8-8, 500.
Don't sell yourself
but I want to
short,
tell you
LG.
something, man. Let me just tell you one more thing, man. This Hoyer won a big game. Andy Dalton, he always chokes. Look at his playoff record. I guarantee you, and I'm not going to say that the Browns are going to make the playoffs because, like I said earlier today, you don't know who's going to make the playoffs until it's playoff time. But have this guy line up in a playoff game, his nerves are like steel, this kid. And I got to tell you something. He could win a playoff game. He proved it last night. This was the next best thing to an NFL playoff game that the Cleveland Browns have ever seen since the time they went to the playoffs way back in the 2000s with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This Cleveland Browns team with Brian Hoyer, with nerves of steel, are proving a lot of critics wrong. You got to sit back. You got to be happy with what we're seeing on the football field. Come on, baby. 3 games over 500, just past the halfway point, 7 games left. I can see us beating Houston next week if the offensive line produces like they did last night. I can see the defense getting in there and giving the Houston Texans a lot of grief next week if they play the same way. That's the thing, J-Rock. That's what I told you yesterday. This Cleveland Browns football team can do it. We saw it 3 times this season. Unfortunately, we can't lower our expectations as a team to play at a lower level of football, which oftentimes is what we've seen happen when you went up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and whoever else had a crappy record, the Oakland Raiders, you know?
I got you. LG, you know what last night does is, I get it. There's people still... and there's a lot of football left to be played. People got to be upright. Hoyer's got to stay on his feet, baby, to get this. There a lot of things have to happen for where you're talking about going. But you know what last night does, and let's wrap it up with this, LG. Last night allows you to think about those things realistically instead of with your head in the clouds, because now you can do just like you said and look ahead and go, man, this team may just be able to make some fun happen here in the we may just get a Christmas present, a late Christmas present from this Browns team, but they've still got to get there. But what last night does is make all of that believable instead of pie in the sky. I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Well, let me tell you one more thing, J-Rock Daddy.
Let's do it, LG.
We're 6-3. We're tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers for the AFC North lead. I think we have the same identical 2-2 record in the division.
And
I tell you right now,
card.
we still got a game with the Ravens left. We got a better record
and
right
Cincy.
now at this point in the season than the Baltimore Ravens. We got to play the Cincy Bengals one more time, and I can't see the Bengals all of a sudden making a big comeback. And we beat Dalton into submission last night. We saw Campbell go out and take the field, man.
Each game is a different beast, though, LG. I mean, look at the Bengals. They get whitewashed by the Colts, and then they came back and they beat the Ravens. So
let's face it, J-Rock, Daddy, we could have shut them out last night had it not been for a fumble by our special teams.
LG. My point is,
the only missing link on this Cleveland Browns football team is a guy that can hold on to the football while returning a punt or a kickoff, man. Other than that,
Josh Cribbs. Josh Cribbs, his phone number. His phone number hasn't changed, guys. I tweeted Josh Cribbs last night. I said, look, they're stubborn. Just go take a drive to Berea and say, hey, Ray Farmer, let's go do lunch. I'm just saying, help us out, man. If we can just get somebody to return a kick back there, that would be great. LG, I got JK coming up next. I got to hit it. Great phone call,
man. JK, LG says, go Browns!
You know it, baby. You have a good one. LG from Cleveland Sports 360. Do not go anywhere because we're cooking now. The sports writer extraordinaire, Jonathan Knight, he's already on the hotline, ready to go. We're going to talk some Browns and Bengals when we come back with the author of one of my favorite Browns books of all time, Sundays in the Pound, baby. The sports writer extraordinaire, as I call him, Jonathan Knight, joins us next here on the Sports Fix. I'll tell you what, too. Hook up another Browns fan that's maybe gotten trolled this morning. Go right now during the break. Do us a favor. Share what you're listening to. Click the button. Send it out on your social media, on Mixler, on TuneIn, on Spreaker, all of them. Tell somebody else to listen right now. You're going to like this. Coming up next, Jonathan Knight joins us, talking Browns and Bengals in the battle for Ohio. Chapter 1 goes to the Browns. We'll talk about it next here on The Fix.
When it comes to Cleveland sports, we go from
you can't touch this
to
I can't watch this.
So listen to The Fix. It's easier on the eyes.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Yeah. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list.